Okay, so before we begin today's list, Scalebound is not on the list. Seriously, I did not include it here. I know you expected it, but you know what? I cancelled it because you expected it. And that's a terrible reason to cancel something, isn't it? Because you expected it. But oh, look at that. That's the entire subject of this entire list. So get used to it, my friend. So let's take a look at games you can't take a look at now. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 video games that were cancelled for the worst reasons. Number 10, Star Wars 1313. Now, with the anchor of the story focusing on the interactions between Boba Fett and all of the scum and villainy of the vast underworld of 1313, a seedy district of the planet Coruscant, this game was shaping up to be something special, especially when the tagline using Boba Fett's extensive arsenal of weaponry to bring in bounties dead or alive was plastered all over this thing. Although, judging by how close all of the enemies seemed to be standing to explosive barrels, I'm going to assume dead is quite common in this case. Yet, this game was being developed at a critical phase of Disney's acquisition of LucasArts, wherein Star Wars would follow a strict and itemized product list. And unfortunately, Star Wars 1313 just didn't make the cut. Since then, of course, Disney have released The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, and much more, so anyone itching for Boba Fett content aren't exactly going hungry. But you know what? That's not the point. Sometimes you just want to see a company take a gamble and bet on lucky number 13. Number 9, Doom 4, Bethesda SOFTWORKS. So what do you think of when you hear the name Doom? If you said that old video game that people keep trying to code so it'll play on scientific calculators and weaving looms, then you know what, you are right, but not the type of right that's pertinent to my point. If you said action horror where you play as an unstoppable force of nature, a human transcending his limits through the use of anger alone, then you're getting a bit closer. And if you said a military shooter just like Call of Duty, then ding ding ding, you've got it exactly right. Wait, what's that? Is that a chorus of boos saying you don't think that Doom should play like Call of Duty? Oh well, neither did playtesters it seems, because Doom 4's vertical slice appeared to play remarkably close to other military shooters released at the time, with one remarking, "I've played this game before a lot." And it seems the intention was to make the new Doom, or at least the new Doom at the time, play with a sense of familiarity, yet it took things too far and lost its unique identity. The strangest thing was that instead of reworking it, it was simply cancelled outright. Now yes, you could argue that this was for the best. I mean, starting from scratch and releasing Doom 2016 just a few years later, to massive critical acclaim for its fresh gameplay and adherence to the subject matter, definitely seemed to wash the plain boiled potato bland taste out of critics' mouths, replacing it instead with a spicy habanero kick to the gonads. But you know what, I still wouldn't say no to Call of Doom, I'm just saying. Number 8, Silent Hills. PT, not just a hilarious prank to play on weak-stomached flatmates, but also a demo that was a hilarious prank to play on weak-stomached flatmates, because they would shit themselves out of fear. If you have absolutely any interest in survival horror games, you'll likely have downloaded PT, the playable teaser for Silent Hills, an extremely disturbing reimagining of Konami's classic psychological horror series. With names such as Kojima, Del Toro, and Reedus involved in the project, the demo stirred up almost universal acclaim and respect, with some outlets even declaring Silent Hill is back to brilliance just from the teaser alone. However, Konami was beginning to tire of Hideo Kojima's presence, claiming his demands and methods were just too astronomical. Konami was, at this point, limiting its AAA game development budget to focus on mobile and casino games. And with Hideo Kojima repeatedly going over budget for Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain, they had decided that he had outgrown his use and fired him. With this, Konami rapidly tied up the development for Metal Gear Solid 5, cancelled Silent Hills, and went on to focus on making some absolutely diabolical Castlevania NFTs, to the excitement of absolutely nobody. Number 7, Batman: The Dark Knight. Now, when it comes to strange billionaires who dress up in tiny mammal costumes, it is hard to beat Batman. Whether it's Adam West's campy, quipping hero or the grim, dark edgelord Christian Bale effort, there's something there for everyone. Unless, of course, you just think that Bruce Wayne should use his enormous wealth to eliminate Gotham's poverty, alleviating crime there significantly. The Dark Knight, alongside being the film to spawn Heath Ledger's Joker, who now appears on 1 in every 3 t-shirts purchased by guys whose favourite film is The Crow, also spawned a tie-in video game with Batman Begins, which received some praise, but mainly it meant that we were definitely going to get the Dark Knight video game, right? And indeed, that was Pandemic's original intention. But scope started to balloon, and Pandemic decided to transfer all the assets from the game that they were working on to a new engine and make the game enormous. Open world, traversable by Batmobile, grappling hook, or on foot, a new stealth system. It was simply just too much at the time. The new engine, Odin, kept on crashing upon implementation of the new assets and mechanics, and when it did work, it would run so poorly that even testing it was impossible. The game was, in effect, so daunted by the huge shadow cast by the movie, it overbuilt its promises to be just as significant. The window for The Dark Knight's theatrical release came and went, and EA decided to accept the $100 million already spent on the project would be for absolute naught. It's a good thing that EA is nearly as rich as Bruce Wayne himself, right? Number 6. Fable Legends. Now, Peter Molyneux once met with Tommy Miller, who wrote this article, and said that he could really feel the passion and got the spirit of his game, which apparently, according to Tommy, didn't really mean anything, but it did tell you a lot about Peter himself, his openness, his creativity, but ultimately his refusal to be pragmatic when being a dreamer is also an option. And with Fable Legends, its ambition was pretty bloody lofty. However, part of the issue wasn't that the game itself was poor, the issue was the use of the IP itself. Much like Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolt, another game ahead of its time. If ahead of it means you should put it in, and time means the bin, Fable Legends had some excellent gameplay. But fans simply didn't want what was being offered in this Fable game. Lionhead had been criticised just a few years earlier for producing Fable The Journey, a Kinect game also far removed from the traditional titles. After waiting half a decade for a new Fable, and with the sour taste of The Journey still in their mouths, fans just didn't want any more IP shakeups. What resulted was a hard drop-off of interest, and the internet angrily boycotting the playtest, sneering, "Not my Fable." And so, it died, with Fable Legends itself becoming a bit of a myth. Number 5. LMNO. With the masterminds at Arcane developing and the ineffable talent that is Steven Spielberg writing the story, LMNO was set to be something extraordinary, an action-adventure road trip featuring an alien companion who could perform parkour moves and various psychic abilities. I tell you what, that beats your glowing finger, doesn't it, E.T.? Your alien companion, Eve, would have also changed her behaviours based on your in-game actions. For example, if you were unnecessarily violent, Eve may also become more aggressive. The entire project was to be a showcase of emotional range and the idea of projecting humanity onto a blank slate. So, easy peasy then, right? Ooh. Spielberg had a contract to work with EA on a few games. However, Electronic Arts ran into an unexpected financial dip which resulted in development having to be curtailed, with developers being laid off and games cancelled. Oddly enough, choosing to axe the once-in-a-lifetime game made alongside the most famous director in the world and not Boogie. Perhaps strangest of all, though, is that one of the EA and Spielberg collaboration games did actually see release, Boom Blocks for the Nintendo Wii. And I think that you'll all agree that when we think of Steven Spielberg's credits, none of us will think of Saving Private Ryan, Munich, or Jurassic Park. We will think of Boom Blocks. Number 4. Fez 2. Now, what's the worst thing that's happened to you as a result of an internet argument? A few mean remarks about your mother? Some guy telling you that your taste in Top 10 Bones episode was hot trash? Well, for creator of indie darling Fez, Phil Fish, the result was just outright cancelling the sequel. Like, getting so mad with a dude that he said, straight up, this guy has ruined it for everyone, so no Fez 2 for anybody now. Now, that's a pretty glib generalisation, of course. Fish has gone on record remarking that the constant hatred towards him had just reached snapping point, with his online argument with Marcus Beer being the final straw. Now, Fish was known for his fairly extreme views, which would incite outrage, and when Beer referred to him as a tosser and a hipster, Fish simply replied, "Compare your life to mine, then kill yourself." Objectively speaking, neither side looks particularly innocent here. However, as a way of punishing everyone that had spoken out against him, Phil subsequently sent out a tweet noting that "I'm done, Fez 2 is cancelled," and even cackling, "I can set the price of the original Fez on Steam, look, it's now $90. So there you go, apparently don't argue with Phil Fish because he's going to take his rage out on everybody. Number 3. TimeSplitters 4. In a market oversaturated with cookie-cutter first-person shooters, you'd think that any variety would be welcome with open arms. Enter TimeSplitters, the only game series that allows you to play as a gang of monkeys armed with bricks fighting minigun-toting humanoid ducks. A game series whose storyline involves you fighting off a zombie invasion 1 minute and then a robot uprising the next. Variety? Check. Big bloody check. Yet that variety would also be its downfall. This was, after all, a time of realistic, gritty first-person shooters, and so Free Radical threw its big bets on Haze, the internet-proclaimed Halo killer, which was, rather ironically, criticised for being too generic. TIMESPLITTERS 4 was regarded as simply too varied to market properly. With so many unique characters and storyline leaps, publishers considered it all too risky to take on. Number 2. Star Wars Galaxies. Another Star Wars game on the list, but for a completely different reason now. Star Wars Galaxy was an MMORPG with stratospheric ambitions to take a big slice of the bantha pie from World of Warcraft, giving players a decent variety of races and professions to choose from, with the obvious choice being Wookiee adult dancer. Galaxies had a very strong start, with its focus on collaboration and cooperation proving to be a real strong point. If injured, you'd need a trained medic. If you wanted a strong buff, you needed the help of a trained chef, or indeed a Wookiee adult dancer. This made players want to strive towards a specialism, reinforcing the community. Yet a vocal pact of the community were unhappy with the lack of instant gratification. For example, to become a Jedi, players needed to be Force sensitive and meet an invisible set of criteria in order to awaken, but that vocal pocket found it all too protracted. In response, Sony simply made Jedi a job that anyone could have and altered the combat system to be more twitchy and instantly playable. However, as people that play MMORPGs don't usually do so in order to play Unreal Tournament, they ended up alienating the core audience entirely. Player hubs were immediately awash with ultra-strong Jedi with the most potent Force powers. And with the grind effectively removed, classic Galaxies fans had nothing to stick around for, so the player base plummeted. Apparently you don't bring balance to the Force by having 438 Darth Mauls on the server at once. Silly Sony. And number 1, Sonic X-TREME. Now, you know that episode of Friends where Joey shouts, "Joey doesn't share food," then proceeds to eat off his date's plate? Well, sometimes, you know what, we're the ones being hypocrites. And it's not easy to see the double standards at play. Yet, for Sonic X-TREME, it was this refusal to share toys, at least in part, that resulted in its cancellation. You see, Sonic X-TREME was a game with lofty ambitions. It was to be one of the Sega Saturn's big flagship titles, showing off the speed and multiple layers of parallax scrolling that the console could handle in a 2.5D format. However, in order to achieve this, Sega would need to use the proprietary Nights into Dreams engine, also known as Nights, and Yuji Naka refused to share the technology as it would take attention away from his new project Nights into Dreams. Of course, there are likely other factors at play. A playable segment of Sonic X-TREME was leaked to some extremely mixed responses, so it's not certain that the game could have succeeded even with the tech blessing of Yuji Naka himself. All I know is that now when I picture that Friends scene, I just see Yuji Naka's face covered in chocolate cake. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 video games cancelled for the worst reasons. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Twitter at RetroJ, but the O is a 0, or you can swing by Instagram where it's the same handle. Hope to see you over there. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. I hope that you're treating yourself well with love and respect, my friends, because you deserve all of the best things in life like love, happiness, and success, and do not let anything or anyone else tell you otherwise, alright? You're a massive ledge. Now go out there and smash it today. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.